I just quickly wanted to show my method for attaching a needle position sensor to your industrial sewing machine. Now I will say that mine's kind of a non-traditional approach. Typically you'll just mount that with the bracket that it comes with and mount it to the side of the head, or sometimes on a high-speed machine it'll have a belt guard on there that you can easily attach to with those threaded rods that will come with your sensor. But you know, sometimes things are just in the way. Either the belt or the bobbin winder prevents you from using the included hardware. So I've got a good workaround. If you just follow it step by step, it's pretty easy to install. Now it's important to note that a digital servo like the CSM 3001 will work just fine with or without a needle position sensor. But if that's an accessory you want to add, you'll need to have a hub like this on your hand wheel. Now the 206 RB5 comes with that pre-installed. But the digital motor kit will also come with one with a selection of fasteners if you need to swap that out. The sensor also comes with this bracket, so just insert it into the slot there, and mine will need to be slid all the way to the outside and we'll get that positioned. Loosely install the sensor over the hand wheel, and there's a number of options that come with the kit, but for me what's going to work best is just this hardware style bracket, really basic bracket, and that'll give me a sturdy connection so that sensor won't rotate or move out of position. And I'll just leave a little wiggle room in that for now. Here's the whole key to setting up your sensor. Drop the needle bar down to the bottom dead position and roll the hand wheel towards you a little further until it just starts to raise up. And then just rotate the sleeve on that sensor until the light comes on. And it's kind of like a stud finder that there's a range. You turn it till the light comes on and you continue turning it a little bit and the light will stay on. So just find the middle of that range and you'll need to snug up the two Allen screws. And now the servo is programmed to always stop with the needle in the down position or just heel tap to raise the needle. Once everything is functioning, think about your permanent wire management. I think I'll drill a 7/8 hole here, and that'll just let this wire pass through, and of course that needs to plug into your controller. Make sure any wires are pulled away from the underside of the table before you drill this hole. So we'll just drop that down to the controller and tidy up our wires a little bit in the process. And there's only one 4-pin connector there, so there won't be any question marks in your mind as you go to plug that harness in. Of course, normally you just fix this bracket of the sensor to the head of the machine, but on this one there's really no good access for that. A lot of things going on with the bobbin winder and the belt, so just easier to use a bracket on the outside of the bobbin winder. But for that to work, you have to use a nylon nut, so this can stay just slightly loose, and that will allow the head to tip back normally and nothing gets in the way. Drop it back down and continue sewing. The only thing you might have to do is add a little bit taller mechanics kickstand there, but that's pretty easy to do. And that's simply because the slotted bracket would run out of room before the machine landed on that short stand that might have come with your machine. And that's just a piece of 3/4 inch dowel that I turned the bottom down to 5/8 to fit in the hole in the table. And overall length on that is about 7.5 inches or 6.5 above the table. Stain and lacquer top coat optional. So there's a lot of good ways to fix that sensor for your needle positioner, but that worked well for me. This is the CSM 3001. It's a 750 watt version, and the speed is easy to adjust down to a minimum of 500 or a maximum of 4200 RPM. I'll usually set mine about 700 RPM so I can sew nice and slowly. I'll put links to a couple similar motors down in the description box, and the thing to remember about Consew servos specifically is if the model number ends in a 0, there's no needle position sensor included. If the model number ends in a 1, you'll get that sensor included. So there's needle down, I'll heel tap, and that's kind of a convenience thing too, because it'll automatically align my machine for the very best position to easily release my material. And then just as far as what it's like to sew with this motor, the speed is really easy to control. In fact, you can go stitch by stitch if you want. So a lot like having the control of a speed reducer. And so you're cruising along, and when you want to stop your row of stitches, it'll automatically end in the needle down position every time. And then just heel tap and it'll raise the needle up. That'll automatically align that machine for the best position just to release your material. So no fussing with the hand wheel. It's really convenient that way. This one's a 206 RB5. I'll drop a link down in the description if you want to check it out a little further. But honestly, the way that a machine sews has a lot more to do with the motor than it does the head. One question that comes up from time to time is, can you use a needle position sensor on a more basic analog servo like a CSM 550? And the short answer is no. They're just not compatible. In order to use a needle position sensor, you have to jump up to a digital servo. So if you're thinking about getting a digital servo, maybe this will give you a little extra confidence on the install, or maybe you already have that digital servo and you just put the sensor in the drawer because you couldn't figure out how to mount it. But either way, hopefully you figure a good way to mount it on your machine.